Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Behind me, as you may recognize, is our 1927 Ford Touring Hot Rod project. It's been a minute since this has been on the channel because we somehow got hot on the van. And, you know, I'll tell you what, that really worked out for us. New engine, new interior, bunch of updates, and now, after sitting for years, it's back on the road. But hopefully you've all seen that. If not, it's here somewhere on the channel. It's on the channel. Honestly, I don't remember what I did last on this thing, or I didn't, and then I started poking around and realized we were building seats last time I was here. So we did the seat bottoms, and that explains why that plywood is still sitting there, because we haven't done the seat backs. But I don't feel like doing that today. Instead, see that? See that? That's right, gang, that's a fuel tank. So what feels now like a million years ago, I found this fuel tank on Speedway in the scratch and dent, aka garage sale section. I love scratch and dent stuff. I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to this stuff. Always got to have a deal. To me, it's an essential part of hot rodding. Like, it's not just the treasure hunt for parts, new or old or vintage or speed or regular standard. It's the hunt for the deal. This was under 200 bucks in scratch and dent land. Now, originally, I was thinking I would like to run a 32 style gas tank. Tanks Incorporated sells 32 gas tanks and little Model A frame extensions, and I thought it would look really good with the touring body with the fenders. But the price tag, gang, was, you know, north of $700 for that kind of a project. So, not the world I'm living in. So the plan today is find the fenders from wherever I've stored them, see if we can actually get them to fit, and then see if we can find a way to mount this gas tank and start to build whatever it needs to do that and put it in a good looking spot at the back of the car. Well, so the good news is I found the fenders. They're here in the cars and car parts repository. Remember that 27 Roadster I bought? Kind of forget I bought it a lot. One day, right? It's always one day. Anyway, I'm gonna jam these things out. Let's get them into the garage. Apparently I'm driving the dogs next door bananas. So for those of you who follow the channel, A, thank you, but B, the last time I had the fenders on this car is when I realized that the body was still sort of a stage 3 cattywampus. That resulted in stripping out the subframe that I clearly built poorly and built a brand new subframe, attached the car to it. The car is now mounted to the body, so with any luck, I did that right. But I guess we're gonna find out, because when we put the fenders on, it's gonna show us a thing or two. Hopefully I did it well enough, at least well enough for this thing. Here we go. Perfect. Oh, don't want to clobber that. All right, so I've busted all 4 body mounts loose, but they're still in place, kind of holding the body where it ought to be. Let's see if I can kind of sneak this in. Potentially with, you know, using a little leverage. Well, that's going up just fine. I just don't have enough hands. That's okay. Where does a guy get more hands? Oh, gang, the #1 dog's here. She thinks I should be using my hands for throwing tennis ball. We'll get there, buddy. We'll get there. For anybody who's judging me right now, Dog and I have already done 2 rounds of tennis ball today. Pooh. There's a little body mount coming off the frame. My fender is on the upside down of it. Dang it. Round 2. Now, if any of you guys at home are thinking, well, Mr. Ford put the fenders on the frame before he put the body on top of the fenders, I would say you are correct. This is more like setting the table and then trying to slide the tablecloth under the dishes. But if you've watched this channel before, you know I'm just gonna keep going at it. Gang, here I am, crawling around with my hands and knees, and I have a lift. Still not used to it. I just I'm just not that fancy, gang, but yet again, at the same time, I guess I am. So if any of you are wondering if there's a method to this madness, I say, kinda. All I'm trying to do is line up the factory holes, because this still is a factory Model A frame outside of the boxing, and these are factory Model A fenders. Now, the rear fenders are different between coupe sedans, roadsters, trucks, whatever, but I think the fronts are all the same. So I'm trying to line up right now these bolt holes in our running board mounts to our running board bolts. So I gotta go back like, I don't know, 1 inch that way. Apparently I gotta try harder. I just haven't found what's, you know, keeping us from doing it. Maybe they're wrong something though. All right, that was something. All right, so we've done a bit of wrestling here. I've got one bolt in here. It's quite clear that this guy has been bent a little bit, which should shock no one considering it's about 100 years old and been in many a Bubba's possession, including my own. And the front looks like it's about in the right place for this bracket, but it's got to come down roughly, I don't know, an inch or something. So guys got to work that out. Then I guess we should lower it down and look at all the holes in the top of the frame. I mean, you guys can see them, but I can't. So let's do that. Bring her down. Whoa. For anyone who's not familiar with what we're working on here, it's a 100-year-old car made out of many different cars. Model T body made out of several Model Ts, and a Model A frame made out of several Model A's. When you're dealing with old scrap heaps like this, there's some wild stuff that goes on. So these are the original mounting brackets for the fenders. They bolt onto the original 3 holes on the frame, right? Cruise up, there's 2 holes for the headlight bar to span from one fender to the next. And then there's a support out on the end to catch the hole in the end of the fender to hold everything up. Now, the thing is, these are compound curves and all that razzmatazz. If you look here, these holes aren't lining up, but watch this. If a guy grabs the fender and drags it enough, suddenly we're in position. And so what I've done is pulled the whole fender, basically just spread it out like this, and magically that aligns now. Is it right? I don't know, but I gotta start somewhere. So we'll probably end up doing this on both sides as we go. Just, you know, trying to get every hole we can to line up. You see we're pretty close here. We gotta go in just a fuzz more if we can. And then we'll see if any of those holes line up. Hot rodding, baby. It's pretty clear that this bracket's been bent a little bit, so we're gonna give it the old lever treatment. Try not to bust myself in the jaw. Did I get it on the first go? Hot dog, I did. Hardly believe it myself, and you guys just watched it happen. All right, let's keep going. All right, gang, we're somewhat in the ballpark of factory. We've got one bolt in the back, the fender apron in the factory bolt hole. You can see that bolt hole lines up. Working our way down, we are not bad. We'll have to figure out exactly how the front fenders need to fit with the angle of their dangle. Right now we've got these holes lining up, but this feels out of whack. But once we get the other fender on, we can put the headlight bar in and see how that all wants to be together. But for now, bit of a moment of truth. We gotta fit this rear fender, and the rear fender is the one I had to modify because I have coupe fenders and couldn't find anybody that would trade me for touring fenders. So we just, you know, made our own back when the body was cattywampus. Perfect. Not quite. Maybe in the ballpark. A little refresher for those of you guys and myself. It's been a minute here. So to modify these fenders, I trimmed out the inner bracketries to get it to fit closer to the body, because that's the difference between a coupe and roadster and touring and pickup and blah, 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 blah. So we'll eventually weld these back in at the right spots, and that will reinforce our fenders and make them more solider and less floppier, and give us a mounting point, which is what we're gonna need to mount them. But you'll see here on the Model T body, there is a hole, and believe it or not, I don't know if you can see that, there is a hole that's pretty darn close on the Model A fender. Now these cars are very similar, yet also very different, but I think we can make that one work. These two holes and the holes in the fender here are designed to line up, because this part and this part, it's all coupe. Now, what we may need to do to make that happen, in theory, is trim more of this meat out to make it go tight, and we'll decide aesthetically if that's what we want to do, because right now, you know. So, now I haven't gone back to watch my fender fitting YouTube video, but I may have to for reference. But what I recall was that I think I cheated this outward in order to make all of this look the way I wanted, because I didn't want, with these big 820-15s, I didn't want them sticking out of the fender too much. I also don't want big fat fenders like crazy, but I just want it all to flow correctly. Basically from the tail of this thing straight down to the front. And if we pull the back of the fenders out just a fuzz, what it'll do is give the whole car a more wedge-like look. But, you know, we're gonna keep fussing with it until it looks right. That's hot rodding, the fun of customizing even. So I'm undoing as little as I can to get to kind of where I need to go, so I have as many reference points in place as possible. But I'm thinking by the time we're done, they're all gonna be gone, meaning we're gonna have modified this setup just enough that the original fender mounts and body mounts aren't gonna mean much. Yep. Gotta do the next one down too. Tiny bit of a time jump into the future. I understand you guys can only watch me struggle with bolts so much per video. So here we are now. It's starting to look more like a thing that we've mocked up in the past, with this nice, like super sexy curve thing going on. So what we've done to get here is pull the entire fender apron out on the back half, roughly 2 inches, 2.5 inches, something like that. And then I bolted the fender to the fender apron here, here, and here. And that gave us this shape, which pulls the fender out just wide of the tire. I understand the way that it looks right now, like suspension is totally unloaded and the spring's probably not settled yet. And we're gonna add 13 gallons of fuel in the back, so this will probably lower a little bit, but still, let's see, we've got several inches of travel. I think 4.5 inches, 5 inches right now from the tube of firm measurements that are under here. So we could even lower the back end a fuzz more if we decided that's what we want aesthetically. But right now, aesthetically, what we're looking at is this kind of line. And gang, I'm pretty happy with it. While this may seem like some extreme amount, if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not gonna know what you're looking at. And honestly, I don't really know how the touring ones fit, but just to be clear, because camera angles can do strange things, that's our distance to the face of the tire, which it's a pretty straight line right now. And I would say that's just the right amount that we want our tire tucked in. Now granted, I do understand in the 60s, cars like this, which is kind of the general shape of things I'm going for, like late 50s, early 60s beach movie vibes, just, you know, working with the trash that I've got. The tires would definitely stick out more because the fenders were usually stock. They took a stock Model T or Model A touring and put slightly bigger wheels on the back end, or if they changed the rear end, as was getting popular in the late 50s, the tire sometimes pooched out a little bit more past the fenders. But that particular look is not something I'm in love with. So we'll make a mild adjustment, and what it means is we'll need to be doing a little bit of sheet metal work right in here. But I think we're qualified to do that. So now that I feel like this side is pretty groovy, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a moment to go refresh your beverage, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the other side on to the same point, and then I'll meet you back at the front. We can see if we can install the headlight bar, and then what we came here to do, I lost the gas tank already. You know, put the gas tank somewhere and see how all that looks together, which I hope it looks good, because I got it now. All right, gang, I got the other side kind of matched to this side, and I just want to show you where it all kind of fell. At this point, looking at some references, so this is the chunk that's supposed to sit on top of our, what do you call that? You know, words with the things. Our running board bracketries and our running board mounts do not line up. I would say we're about an inch and change shifted forward to make this whole kind of contraption work. And you can also see that we are almost 2 inches from our bolt mounting point to our bolt hole in our running board mount. It's interesting because the way that the fender apron and the angle of the dangle works, we're about 1.5 inches off at the fender well, but a little further out here. I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but basically we're pooched out this way. We'll call it 2 inches until we measure more better. And then we are about 1.25 inches forward. Now, as we move further and further down, we are no longer coming out. Like basically the fender is pushed into its factory position up front, meeting the original bracket, and then slowly tapers out and gets wider towards the back. Remember, gang, this is a hot rod, not a restoration. So we're doing this because it's what I think looks the best. And then we're gonna figure out what problems that creates and fix them. So presently on the back end, as we've already seen here, there is this gap that will need to be solved. In addition, the back of the fender apron is gonna need some kind of a mount that attaches to the body. We're gonna have to fix the running board bracket slash holder on or position thing on the running board itself. Maybe need to figure out how to extend the fender aprons up here to catch a little bit more of the frame so we can bolt it all down so that they don't go flying when we're doing 1 billion miles an hour in this hot rod down the highway. And then we've got to work our way up to the front. Sort of seeming to be able to make this work right now, so I've got to get the other fender bracket lined up over here. We're gonna go ahead and add our headlight bar in to help square up the front. Just eyeballing down this side, you can see that we are pretty much in the same boat over here. This line is kind of a reference to where, well, not a whole lot. It's where a Model A coupe body would have sat on this thing. So, you know, if it were pushed into its factory position, I would say that the bodies are probably a pretty similar width and a pretty similar shape. We got, you know, a line that tapers with our taper as we pushed in the fenders. Gang, we've got the leaf blower orchestra going in the neighborhood. I mean, everybody has got their leaf blowers out at full throttle right now. It sounds like a bunch of Scotsmen are walking down the street.
I see you kept my bagpipes.
Please forgive me, gang, because the bagpipers of Greater North Georgia are still right outside my door practicing their one note. We're kind of mocked up. We got the headlight bar in that ties our 2 fenders together through all of the original mounting holes of our original brackets. You may notice that I have all of the wrong hardware because, well, having the right hardware on hand has never been a prerequisite here at Between the Sharks Garage for starting a project. In fact, having any kind of plan whatsoever is never a prerequisite. I took a good look. I think this is a chrome headlight bar, which is a little bit of a bummer because if it was stainless steel, I think I would be able to drop it and just polish it, and it would be pretty groovy. But if I drop a chrome headlight bar, I think the chrome will peel off because you've got to heat the dog poo out of it. Clearly, it's been wanged right here, now that I'm just realizing this. Heat the dog poo out of it, bend it down, oh, the silence. Oh no. Anyway, you got to heat it, you bend it down, you bend it back up, and it'll drop the headlights down to about yonder, which I think, despite the fact we're bucking some hot rod trends by putting fenders on this bad boy, I think dropped headlights are probably the way to go. I was gonna run them up like these big bug eyes, but maybe we'll see. Or maybe that's something we'll see in the future, because if I can't drop it, the most sensible thing to do is sell it at a premium due to its dent and buy a dropped headlight bar, which is way less fun than using a torch, but who needs to make work for themselves if it's gonna turn out sour anyhow. We're a little cramped back here, but I think there's enough to show you how this sort of works with the fenders. Now, we're gonna wanna build a sheet metal piece that kind of closes this in and looks sort of nice, but we have this whole area between the fenders that's, I don't know, an elbow deep or so, to put something. That something is gonna be a gas tank. 32 gas tank would look real good back here, but ain't got the stomach or the wallet for it. So, we are gonna find a little cylinder gas tank that I've already lost and see kind of how it looks back here. As you may have noticed, I haven't even unwrapped this thing, and that's probably for the best, but I'm curious because I bought it because it was blemished and I'm cheap, but the reality is, I mean, look what car we're putting on, first of all, and second of all, nothing will remain in my possession without getting blemishes. I'm not that guy, you know, like I use the stuff I've got. I am not that careful. I am not that graceful. So blemishes come with the territory. So I think it highlighted, oh yeah, okay, so there was a yellow sticker. I did see that much. So there's a little dent right there, not the size of my thumb, and some little scratches, which I don't think I can even show you on camera. Anyway, it's gonna have a lot more by the time I'm done with it. Not because I'm gonna try to wang it, but because all that other stuff I just said. So I guess maybe it's for the best if I don't unwrap it any further than this. Let's see if we can get it up on some jack stands back yonder ways. All right, gang. I just threw it on some jack stands and I've already lied to you. I got to take that packaging off because this might fortuitous. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's another big wang in it. Whatever. Perfect. Gang, look at this. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? These seams basically line up with the seams in the back of the car. There's not a lot of room to work back here. I just got the thing up on jack stands, so I can only get you, hey, look at that, it's almost far enough away. So overall, she's looking pretty good. One thing, it's not a big deal, but I'm gonna have to space it out enough because this needs to be pretty much vertical because my fuel dumper outer part right here needs to be straight up and down. Otherwise, I'm leaving fuel in the tank, and with 13 gallons, that's more than enough to scoot around town, but a guy does not want to be running out. Now, if you're wondering, there do not seem to be any provisions here for any kind of fuel gauge sending system, which it's a little hot rod. That's really okay with me, but you know, I think if I got wild about it, I could weld in a thing and just put in a sight glass, which would be super cool. But I don't know if we want to go through the trouble. But maybe we do. All right, gang. I'm pretty thrilled with this general setup. The fenders are looking good. The gas tank is looking good. The car in general is starting to look like I'd always imagined, which is pretty exciting. In fact, you know, back to the inspiration back in the day. We got our little drawing, everybody hanging out. We got these jalopies on the fridge. Well, now we got this jalopy coming together. So we're gonna see you next time on Between the Sharks when we actually figure out how to mount this stuff. We'll modify our fenders, we'll start building the brackets for The gas tank itself in no particular order. It did come with these stainless steel lockdown hoops, but we've got to build something to attach them to. Okay, how about that? Came with a gas cap too. That's nice of them. And what I would like to do is use these accessory bumper guards as part of this process. Thinking kind of like Nerf bars, but you're gonna have to wait till next time to see that. However, in the meantime, if you can identify those, please put it in the comments, because I've never seen a set in the wild, and I've only seen 2 cars with those in even photographs. And one was a 52 Ford, I think, and then one was like a 73 Chevrolet Camper Special. So I can't make heads or tails of it, but we'll get into that more next time on Between the Sharks. Good luck on your projects out there. We will see you next time.